I'd like to welcome you to the third chapter of the book of Joel. It begins, Oti idou ego en te simeres ekines ke en to karo ekino, oten epistrepso tin akmalosian Iuda ke Jerusalem. For behold, ego, I. Ego, the I is the personal, pronoun, ego, I in those days, imeres, we have ephemeral, and in that time, whenever, 1, 2, captivity, 3 of Judah and Jerusalem, 6, shall return. So then he continues what is going to go on in the second chapter. Sinaxo pantata ethni, ke kataxo avta istin kilada iosaphat, ke diakrithesome pros avtus aki ipertuleu mu, ke tis kleronomias mu Israel, us diaspora en tis ethnicin, ke tingin mu kata zilanto. And I will gather Panta, we have a Pan for all, the ethnic nations, and I will lead them into the valley of Jehoshaphat. Who is Jehoshaphat? Jehoshaphat was the fourth king of the independent Judah after it separated in around 875 BC. But before we go into Jehoshaphat, in this valley of Jehoshaphat, I don't see, a lot of people think this is an actual certain valley that has a name. It's right around Jerusalem, but I don't necessarily see that as the only possibility. I think it can also be a condition. If you open your Bibles to Exodus 14:25, we'll start right there and see what happened in history with the Jews in 1425. And it says here, when the Egyptians were coming after Israel, Israel would have thought that they would have had to fight the Egyptians. But it says, and he bound the axles of their chariots and led them with force. And the Egyptians said, we should flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord wages war for them against the Egyptians. Even the Egyptians knew what God could do. And the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand upon the sea and restore the water, and cover over the Egyptians, over both the chariots and over the horsemen. And Moses stretched out his hand upon the sea, and the water restored at day to its place, and the Egyptians fled from under the water. Anyway, you know the story of how God took up the battle instead of the children of Israel. Then if you would go to 1 Samuel 14:20, there's another story there. It says, and Saul ascended and all the people with him, and they came unto the battle. And behold, every man's broadsword was upon his neighbor, and an exceedingly great confusion. And the servants being yesterday and the third day before with the Philistines, the ones ascending into the camp, turned to themselves also to be with Israel, of the ones with Saul and Jonathan. And so then the war reached on, but when they came to battle, the Philistines were battling with themselves, and there was a defeat by the people without actually having a battle there. And then if you turn to 2 Kings 7:6, another incident, it says, for the Lord made audible in the camp of Syria a sound of chariots, and a sound of horses, and a sound of a great force. And each man said to his neighbor, behold, the king of Israel has hired against us the kings of the Hittites and the kings of Egypt to come against us. And they rose up and ran away in the darkness, and they abandoned their tents and their horses and their donkeys, as was in the camp, and they fled for their lives. And then, so that was another example where the Syrians fought with themselves, or they ran away because of what God did. And then 2 Kings 19:35 is another example. We'll go to that. And it says, and it came to pass at night that there came forth an angel of the Lord, and he struck among the camp of the Assyrians 185,000. And they rose up early in the morning, and behold, all dead bodies. And Sennacherib, king of the Assyrians, departed and returned and went. And he lived in Nineveh. So here we see with King Hezekiah that the Assyrians were defeated without the people of Israel having to do anything. So now, it's talking about right here, the Valley of Jehoshaphat. And the reason I say I don't think it's an actual place, it's around Jerusalem, although it might be. We go to this 2 Chronicles 20:10. And we'll read there. It's a story. And now, behold, the sons of Ammon and Moab and Mount Seir, in which you did not grant Israel to go through them, in their coming forth from out of the land of Egypt, for they turned aside from them, and they did not utterly destroy them. And it goes all the way down here until how God says the battle is his. And Jehoshaphat, it says here in verse 22, and when they began the praise and the acknowledgement, the Lord appointed an ambush for the sons of Ammon to wage war against Moab and Mount Seir, the ones coming forth against Judah, and they put them to flight. So here, these people that were battling with Israel, and they were put to flight. And then it continues, and there rose up the sons of Ammon and Moab against the ones dwelling in Mount Seir, to utterly destroy and to obliterate them. And as they finished off the ones dwelling in Seir, they rose up against one another. A man took his neighbor for hurt. And Judah came upon the height in the wilderness, and looked, and they beheld the multitude, and behold, all were dead, having fallen upon the ground. There was not one surviving. And Jehoshaphat came forth and his people to despoil their spoils. And they found much cattle and belongings and spoils and desirable items, and they despoiled for themselves. And there they were 3 days plundering the spoils, for there was much. And on the 4th day they assembled in the valley of the blessing, for there they blessed the Lord. On account of this they call the name of that place Valley of Blessing until this day. And so Jehoshaphat in this valley is what I see of the over and over again the forces that come against Israel are defeated. Well, how does this take place? Well, or how does this apply to what we're talking about right here? Well, this Valley of Jehoshaphat, I will litigate there for my people and my inheritance Israel, whom I dispersed among the nations, even the ones who divided my land. Well, those people have come back in 1948. Now, this may be talking about something that's going on. This is 2008 as I'm doing this seminar. If you open to Daniel 10:13, we'll see an interesting passage. 10:13, and the ruler of the kingdom of the Persians stood right opposite me 20 days. And one day, and behold, Michael, one of the rulers of the ones foremost, came to help me, and I left him there with the ruler of the kingdom of the Persians. And it talks about this Michael, and then in verse 12:1 of Daniel it says, and in that time shall rise up Michael the great ruler, the one standing for the sons of your people. And it will be a time of affliction such as not taken place from of which time there became a nation on the earth until that time. And in that time your people shall be delivered, every one being found written in the book. This Michael also appears in Revelations 12:7. He fights with the devil. So how does that apply today? And with Israel, I was thinking about that, and how could I tell people about these prophecies and these nations coming against Israel could be coming against Israel very soon, because this is in June of 2008, and the sabers are being shaken by the Persians, the Iranians today, which became Iran just a 20 or 30, 40 years ago, was Persia for thousands of years, and they're shaking their swords against Israel, and people are expecting a possible attack by Israel against the supposed nuclear facilities. There may be, but nobody's sure, but Israel may attack. And then if they do, then everybody's predicting this giant war that would occur, possibly Russia coming down from the far north. It says in the first chapter of the book of Joel about the country from the far north. Israel and Moscow, Jerusalem, I'm sorry, and Moscow are almost on the identical meridian. Moscow is at 37 degrees 42 minutes, and Jerusalem is 35 degrees 23 minutes. And if you took the easternmost part of Israel up in the Golan, and you took the westernmost part of Moscow, you'd probably be less than a meridian, less than 45 miles difference. And so this country from the far north coming down. Well, now, how would everybody thinks, well, if Russia came down and all the Islamic nations that it mentions in the book of Ezekiel, how could Israel possibly defeat an army like that? Well, armies have come against Israel before, we've seen, and they were defeated by themselves. And there is a thing that's called armistice. It's like fratricide, but it has more to do with weapons rather than one person killing. A fratricide, a friend killing, but an armistice. And it mentions in one article that I read on the internet how it talks about NATO has now narrowed the search down to 2 anti-friendly fire technologies after testing 4 in Operation Urgent Quest. These maneuvers involved NATO and Australian forces and were organized by the UK Ministry of Defence. One of the 2 most promising technologies, the Battlefield Target Identification Device, BTID, is a millimeter wave radio transceiver for ground vehicles that send back an ID code, complete with GPS coordinates. And it goes on, and there's another radio-based combat ID rather than the first one, and these codes that are given, all one would have to do probably would be to jumble up the code where the one friend thought the other friend was an enemy, and then we would see what would happen. I have never heard anybody mention this, and it's something that's I was thinking of on my own. I'm not saying that this is going to happen. It's just that it's something that it's come into my psyche, and I see these things, and just mentioning it to you. Whether or not this is going to happen like that or not, I don't know. But anyway, God is going to lead these people, these nations up here, ethne, into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and I will litigate with them there, the people, from my people and my inheritance, whom I dispersed among the nations. Israel was dispersed for 2,000 years. The land was divided. And then verse 3, it continues, Ke api ton leon mu evalon clerus ke edokanta paidaria pornes ke ta coracia epolun anti tu inu ke epinon. Verse, and it's they cast lots. Evalon, we have ballistics as a derivative, and the clerus, a cleric, ministers or priests that were chosen by lots. They cast lots over my leon, laity, the people. And they gave the paidharia, the boys, we have a pediatric as a derivative, to harlots, pornes, pornography, derivative, and sold the young women for inu, and vino as a derivative, and they drank. Ke tis imis ami tiros ke sidon, ke pasa Galilea alophilon. Mi antapodoma imis antapodidotemi, e menisikakite imis ami, oxios ke takeos antapodoso, to antapodoma imon. Ke is Kephalas Imon. And what are you to me, O Tyre and Sidon, right up north of Israel and Lebanon, and all Galilee of the Philistines, the Allophelon, Alonim, other, and the uh, the Phelon, a phylum, these other tribes, and it was normally the Philistines. Do you recompense a recompense to me? What is a recompense? Well, there are three possible reactions with God with actions that man has done. One is a reward, another is a punishment. A reward would be for doing something good. So you'd be doing good, you get a reward. And then if you're doing something bad, you get a punishment. If you're doing good, you don't get punished, and if you're doing bad, you don't get a reward from God. But a recompense can be either one. You can be doing good or doing bad. It depends on what you're doing, how the recompense will be. If you're doing, so this is a word that it can go either way. A recompense can be good or it can be bad. It depends on what the person is doing. He says, or do you have resentment to me? Swiftly and quickly I will recompense your recompense upon your kephalas, the head, cephalic. This has to do with the head. Verse 5. Anthon to argirion mu ke to krision mu elavate ke ta epilacta mu ta kala isinenkate istus neus imon. Because you took my silver, the argirion, Argentina, the silver country named of silver, and the chrysion, the chrysanthemum flower, the golden flower. Nebuchadnezzar took all the gold in these nations, plundering Judah after Nebuchadnezzar, and even before they took all these things. And the chosen things of mine. Ta kala, we have, means good. Kalas, calisthenics or kaleidoscope, a good kaleidoscope, a good scene, or calisthenics, good strength, the kala, you carried into your temples. In verse 6, Ketus ius Iuda, ketus ius Jerusalem, apedos the tis ton elinon, opos exosite aftus ek ton orion afton. And the sons of Judah and the sons of Jerusalem you rendered to the sons of the Greeks. Could possibly be talking about the Jews that were taken to Nebuchadnezzar and then went into Persia, the Medes and the Persians, and they could have been selling these Jews as slaves to the Greeks. It's definitely the Greeks, the Ellinon, so that you should push them from out of their borders. Those people were spread around the world. Ek, and Orion, we have horizon, Hassan, again with the first vowel in Greek. Begins the word, Omicron. In verse 7, Ke idhu ego exagiro aftus ektu topu u apedosthe aftus aki, ke antipodoso antipodoma imon is kephalas imon. And behold, I will awaken them from out of the place, topu, topography, map making, out of the place of which you rendered them there. And I will recompense your recompense upon your heads, kephalas, again. In verse 3:8, ke apodosome tus ius imon, ke tas thigateras imon, is hiras ion Juda. So here it changes a little bit. Before it was all these people and the Greeks, and they took all these Jews and sold them, the Medes and the Persians maybe, and it says, and behold, I will awaken them from out of the place of which you rendered them there. So this awaken here, it's sort of like could be a long period of time, a lapse of time, thousands of years possibly, from out of the place of which you rendered them there. Well, the Jews are spread all over Europe. Greece and other places, Holland, Netherlands, Hungary, Eastern Europe, all over. And then he will recompense the recompense on their heads. And I will render your sons and your daughters into the hands of the sons of Judah. So these people that were taken, the Jews, are going to be taken by the Jews. And they shall render them into captivity. Is ethnos makron apechon oti o kyrios elalise. Aikmalosi in captivity into a nation. Ethnos makron apechon. For the Lord, the kyrios, kyrieleison, Lord, spoke. What does that remind me of, or people that are living in the time right of 2008? Who would have ever thought all these peoples way over in or in the Middle East would ever go anyplace else? But yet there's a place called Guantanamo in Cuba where many of the Muslims in Afghanistan were taken. So this could be talking about something in the future of 2008, that this army or people that are come against Israel are going to be taken into a far distance. And verse 9, it continues, Kirixate tavta entis ethnicine, agiasate polimon, exagirate tus makitas, prosagagate ke anavainate pantas andras polimiste. Proclaim it out loud with a herald, these things among the nations, the ethnicity. Sanctify, agiosity, the hagiographic, the hierarchy. And sanctify has to do with this priesthood, a war. And awaken the warriors. Lead forward and ascend all the men of war. So these nations are all now being awakened to war, which is exactly happening today in 2008. And then 3:10, it says, Syncopsate ta arotra imon is rompheas ke ta drepana imon is syromastas o adinatos legato oti ischio ego. We have the opposite of this in Isaiah 2:4. If you open your Bibles to Isaiah 2:4, it says, and he shall judge in the midst of the nations, and he shall completely refute many people. And they shall cut down their swords into plows, and their pikes into sickles. And a nation shall not take up a sword against a nation. It's just the opposite. In Micah 4:3, we see that where the broadswords are turned into sickles and for something good. So it's the opposite. And then let the powerless say that I am strong, the ego. Lege has to do with speaking, and the logos. And 3:11, sina thriseste ke isporeviste pantata ethni kiklothen ke sin nakthite aki o prais esto makitis. The prais, we mentioned that in our pronunciation seminar with the Arisis, and you can see Ari. Gather together and enter all Pantata nations, Kiklothen, we have a cyclone, something to do with roundabout, Kiklo. And gather together, Sinak Thite, it's the verb, a synagogue, a gathering of people. Whenever you see the Sinag or Sinak, gather together there, and let the gentle one be a warrior. Verse 12, it continues. Exagire stosan ke anavainetosan pantata ethni is tinkila the Iosaphat. Theoti aki kathio to the akrine pantata ethni kiklothen. Awaken and ascend all pantata ethni, all the nations, ethnic derivative, into the valley of Jehoshaphat. For there I will sit to separate Panta, all the nations round about. God is going to do this without Israel having to do anything, I believe. When they come against, all these nations come against Israel, they're going to have a good reason to come against them. And an attack of Israel against their nuclear facilities that they're building would be a good reason for this to get out of hand, I see. Verse 13. Exapostilate drepana oti parestikeno trigitos is poreviste tapite dioti pliris ilinos iperekite ta ipolinia Oti eplithin thi ta kaka afton. Ex apostilate, apo, an apostle, apostille, send out. Ex, we know is from, ex, same word. X can also be 6, but you can tell it by the context. And ek and X are both from. Send out. Sickles, for the gathering of crops stands by. This is the enemy troops. Enter in. Tread, for the wine vat is full. And figure of speech here, for the wine vat is full. The blood is going to be poured out. And pleris, plethora is the derivative. The wine vats overflow, for their evils. Ta kaka. We have kaka as something that's evil. And we can see now we have 3 blue definite articles, 35, 88, and as we mentioned, these in this book, the blues are all either the ta, which is a nominative, or accusative, singular, or to, which is nominative or accusative, plural, and then neuter. And you have to try to figure it out by the sentence that it's in. And these are all in the accusative. Almost everything, every 3588 that's highlights in the accusative in this chapter, except the 2 in verse 13 are in the nominative. The Ipolinia kaka here. I'm sorry, these are in the nominative, and everything else is in the accusative. Hope I didn't confuse you there. So it says, for their evils are multiplied. That's the nominative. The wine vats overflow. And then verse 14, it continues. Iki exihisan enti kiladitis dikis, oti agis imera kiriou, enti kiladitis dikis. The iki, the sounds, we have echo, comes from that word in derivative. Iki, sounds resounded in the valley of punishment. For the imera kiriou is near, in the valley of punishment. So this is God's valley that he's going to choose where. Verse 15, O ilios kei selini siskotasusi kei asteras thisusi to phengos afton. The sun, helium, is the derivative, ilios, and the moon shall darken, and the asteris is a direct transliteration, asteris into stars, astronomy, shall let down their brightness. Verse 16, O they Kyrios exion, anakraxate ke ex Jerusalem, thosi phonin aftu, ke sistisate o uranos, ke igi, o they Kyrios fisate ton leon aftu, ke eniskisi tus ius Israel. But the Lord, the Kyrios, shall shout aloud from Zion, and one shall utter his phonin, the voice, phone, telephone, his voice from out of Jerusalem. Okay, and 1, the heaven, Uranos, Uranus, the planet, derivative, and the geology, derivative, shall be shaken. Thesate, the future, thesate, and the seismo has to do with the shaking, seismic, derivative. But the Kyrios shall spare his laity, the people, and shall strengthen the sons of Israel. Ke genosis the oti ego Kyrios, o theosimon kataskinon in Sion, ori agio mu. Ke este Jerusalem agia ke allogenes. And you shall genosis, the gnostics, gnosis, apprehension of spiritual truths. You shall know that ego, I am Kyrios, o theos, theology, theos, your God, encamping in Sion. Orography, map, mountain, has to do with mountains. My holy mountain, Agio. And Jerusalem will be holy, and the allogenes, the other genes, genus, another race or foreigners. will be holy, and the foreigners shall go via levsonte, via aftis, uketi, shall go through her no longer. So no longer are these other armies going to be going through. Ke este in ti imera yakini apostalaxi taori, glykas mon ke ivuni risonte gala, ke passe e aphesis iuda risonte idata, ke pigi ex iku kyriou exolevsite, ke potii ton himarun ton skinon. And it will be in that day, Imera, the mountains, Ori shall trickle down, glykas mon. We have the English derivatives glyco, prefix for sugar, and glucose, sugar. And the hills shall flow gala, galactic milk. And all the releases of Judah shall flow waters. And a spring shall come forth from out of Iku Kyriou, the Iku, the economy, the house of the Lord, and it shall water the rushing streams of the rushes. If you open to Ezekiel 47:2, you will see here it talks about this future time, the last chapters in Ezekiel and the 40s are all the future time of this, of Israel and Jerusalem and the temple, and gives all this interesting information. And this is towards the end. And he brought me unto the threshold of the house, and behold, water went forth from beneath the open space of the house according to the east. For the front of the house looked according to the east, and the water went down from the south of the house of the right upon the south of the altar. And he led me according to the way of the gate of the one towards the north, and he led me by the way outside to the gate of the courtyard of the one looking according to the east. And behold, the water carried down from the right side. And there was a man exiting right opposite there, and a measure was in his hand. And it goes forth in how he measured this water, and that how it went forth. And the water going forth, it says in 8, unto Galilee, and towards the east, and Galilee's in the north, and towards the east, and goes down into Arabia, comes down as far as unto the sea, unto the water of the outlet. And it shall heal the waters, and it will be every life of the living creatures of the one swarming upon all, upon whichever the river should come upon, shall live. And this is exactly what it's talking about here. You can read this more in the 47th chapter of Ezekiel. In 39:19, it continues, Aegyptos is aphanismon este, ke idumea is pedion aphanismu, ex avikon ion iuda, anthon exechien ima dikion inti gi afton. Egypt will be for an extinction. Phantom is the derivative, and Edom for a plain of aphanismu, of extinction, because of the iniquities of the sons of Judah, because they poured out blood of the just in their land. The Edomites helped Nebuchadnezzar when Nebuchadnezzar came against Israel and helped them defeat, plunder Jerusalem. And later the Edomites moved into the southern part of Israel because the Idumeans pushed them out. And then we'd hear no more about the Edomites after this. And this Egypt having this extinction. But we know in another place that, I wish I knew where it was, I didn't write it down, I just thought of it, that there's a road that will be between Egypt and the Mesopotamian Valley, a freeway. So God is going to change the political boundaries of this after this attack, and no longer will these old animosities be around, because it says that there will be a monument and people will pray in Egypt, and this freeway will be going all the way over into the Mesopotamian, to Babylon, maybe even into Persia today, where they'll have trade back and forth. And then finally in verse 20, Iudea is ton Iona katikithisate in Jerusalem, is genias genion. But Judea shall dwell into the eon. Now, doesn't necessarily mean forever, because we know that Jerusalem will be attacked again after the 1,000 years. In Revelations, it talks about Gog and Magog coming against Jerusalem and the Satan being released. So this generations of generations could be the time afterwards when it's talking about Ke exitiso to ema afton, ke umi athooso, ke kyrios kataskinosi in Sion. And I will require their blood, the ema, hemoglobin, we mentioned it before, and in no way will I acquit, should be an I. And the Lord shall encamp in Sion. Kyrios shall encamp in Zion. And if you go in to read these last 10 chapters of Ezekiel, it talks about the prince. And if that is God in the flesh, there's a lot of things in there that you can read and come up with a decision yourself. And when we get to Ezekiel, we'll be going through a lot more of that. But this is an interesting chapter, and June the 24th, I believe it is, and 2008. So far, it's just like I said, the swords are being rattled. But I don't know how long this seminar will be around people, but it'll be interesting. And we hope that you will all be with the believers, because the believers that believe in Jesus, that are walking with him, will not suffer the wrath of God. It says that he will spare his people right there in verse 16. But the Lord shall spare his people and shall strengthen the sons of Israel. So it's kind of his people and the sons of Israel. So that's the end of the book of Joel. And we'll be going into the book of James next. We hope you will join us then, and we'll be seeing you. God bless.